Hey everyone, this is Dr. Brasfield with OptiZoom.com, where you can find and order everything you need for your optometric practice in one place. It's that easy. Now, today I want to talk about doing your due diligence when purchasing an optometry practice. In the last video, I did share with you internal and external factors to look at when determining the value of a practice. So that's step one. And then step two is looking at all the documents and forms pertaining to the finances and the legal aspects of the business that you're thinking about purchasing. So today I'm going to be talking about the major items that you need to look at when trying to figure out what kind of offer you want to make on an existing optometry practice. Number one, you need to get tax returns, at least 3 years. This is going to give you a big overall picture. If the ownership structure is a sole proprietorship, you're going to be looking at Schedule C. If it's a partnership or a LLC, you're going to be looking at Form 1065 and a K-1. And if it's a corporation, you're going to be looking at Schedule 1120 or 1120S if it is an S Corp. So number one, look at the tax returns. That's going to tell you a lot about where the money is going and what the net profit is. Number two, you need to get all the statements and all the sheets. So what am I talking about? We're talking about profit and loss statement. We're talking about income statement, expense statement, and even balance sheets if available. And you want to try to get those for the last 3 years if you can, but at the very minimum, at least for the current year. In addition to these things, you also want to look at the practice debt. So short-term debt, long-term debt, the amounts owed, the maturity dates, the amounts receivable, payable, what the depreciation schedules are looking like, and what the assumed liabilities are, because when you take over, you need to understand, are you going to be responsible for continuing with that debt repayment, which most of the case is yes. Also, you want to look at all the assets in the practice. What is the equipment, basically? What is the model, the age, and the fair market value of every single piece of optometric equipment in that practice, because that affects the value. If you have 4 opters that are manual and 20 years old, that's going to be worth a lot less than a practice that has digital 4 opters that were just purchased a couple years ago. So you need to look at what you're purchasing, the physical assets. Then you also want to look at the optical. Optical is a whole nother story because there is so much money tied up in optical. So you want to look at the wholesale cost of all the frames, all the spectacle lenses, and all the contact lens inventory that the practice holds. And then you also want to look at your competition. So who is around you? In suburban or rural areas, the radius around the practice can be bigger that you're looking at. For really urban areas, just a couple miles. And you want to look at who are the ODs, who are the OMDs, who are the opticians, and where are the corporate chains, and how close are they, and are you guys competing for the same demographic? Even more analysis of the current practice includes patient volume, as well as a breakdown of new and existing patients by the number of visits per year, where the patients live, and the age. You also want to look at all the fee schedules for the services provided and the percentage of patients seen in the specialty areas that the practice has. You also want to look and see how the promotional materials of the practice are being used, what kind of advertising and communication methods that they have with the patients as well. So this is all of your due diligence, and you also want to be looking at the ownership structure of the practice. So after you gather all the forms and documents I just listed for you, you want to start asking a lot of questions. Number one, are there a lot of property taxes for which the new owner would need to assume responsibility on completion of the purchase? Has the seller received any unusual legal or financial correspondence recently? What service contracts, material contracts, leases, commitments, and consignments is the practice obligated to fulfill? And what are the current staff's terms of employment? What are the details? What are the benefit plans? What do you need to basically assume when you take over ownership of this practice? You also want to obtain all the copies and look at all the managed care third-party contracts and find out if there are any licenses or permits that are required for you to obtain before starting the new business. You also want to ask for copies of any property liens, liabilities, mortgages, security interests, and UCC filings that will be assumed by the new owner. You also need to make sure that all the payroll taxes, vacation time, sick leave, and any retirement plans are all currently paid so you're not on the hook for them. Buying an optometry practice sure takes a lot of work and due diligence, but by following this outline and asking for the records that are required to do your part to make an informed decision, and also asking the right questions and asking the right documentation, you're definitely going to hit the ground running when purchasing this practice. So I hope you enjoyed today's practice management tip. Stay tuned for the next one to keep your optometry business at the top of its game. I'm Dr. Brasfield for OptiZoom.com. Until next time.